It's been interesting because since your article dropped, I gotta say, it has got all the buzz. If you are on X, if you're on Instagram, TikTok for the young kids, you know that Caitlin Clark is the Time Athlete of the Year. How has your 24 hours been since the articles dropped?
It's been awesome, and just the reaction. Obviously, people so excited not only about women's basketball, but about women's sports, and how excited and deserving, not only myself, but just women's sports as a whole.
Recently, Caitlin Clark became the first player in the WNBA to win multiple times as an Athlete of the Year, but not. Everyone is sharing in the festivities, but it's becoming more and more obvious that Sheryl Swoopes has her share of detractors. Wilson, Nalissa Smith, Diana Taurasi, and regrettably, the list goes on.
Sheryl, I'll start with you. What's your reaction to Caitlin Clark winning Time Magazine Athlete of the Year?
I don't think I'm surprised. I'm curious to know who the other candidates were.
In an unexpected but strangely inevitable twist, four-time WNBA champion and now Clark's most vocal critic, Sheryl Swoopes in. Discuss the athlete's recent victory in more detail in today's program. Dissect the dispute, look at the criticism, and find the surprising method. Clark is managing everything, and he had the ideal opportunity to respond. Decided to take a different path, leaving everyone completely stunned.
Here's why she.
The response is a masterclass in leadership and grace.
And I've grown up a huge women's sports fan, whether it was basketball, whether it was soccer, whether it was volleyball, you go down the list. Like, I grew up loving it and watching it, so it's pretty special. Like, it doesn't really feel real that I get to be here, but an amazing honor.
Consider, despite not winning Time Athlete of the Year, Caitlin Clark is riding high. As the glasses are being raised, Sheryl Swoopes, a former WNBA superstar, enters. On the Gills Arena podcast, an unexpected critic is causing drama.
The fact that that's the very first WNBA player to ever win Time Magazine Athlete of the Year is pretty special. And my question is, like the criteria, is it based off of her performance on the court, which, yeah, she had a great year, or is it more about the impact that she had on the game this season?
Instead of complimenting Clark, Swoopes goes on a full-fledged TI raid, publicly contesting the "I'm trying to figure out what the criteria are for Grant Clark's title," she says in a voice laced with incredulity, and she continues Swoopes and rattles off a list of other candidates who, in her opinion, ought to have won the award, instead make the entire process seem like a slow-motion train catastrophe, leaving both observers and fans perplexed and wondering what's actually going on.
This is just probably just the impact of the sport, a little bit of it's a little bit of everything, right? So,
Yeah, I mean,
when you think about, you just think about athletes of this year.
Yeah.
It's her, the swimmer.
What swimmer?
For Olympics.
Katie Ledecky.
Her performance.
Shit, you can put
in the
Simone Biles back in there.
You can put her back in there. Probably LeBron from his Olympics.
As we explore, a pattern begins to emerge as she continues her statements. This isn't the first time. Swift swoops were used to target Clark after he broke the NCAA scoring mark, to minimize it, wondering if the achievement was truly noteworthy, considering how much the game has changed when the first milestone was established.
Put Asia Wilson in there.
That was just basketball.
So that's what I'm saying. Was it just the performance on the court, or
it's global? It's like, I think it's everything.
Yeah,
it's everything.
How about Wilson? Everyone listens in startled silence as she shouts, "Is this simply a? Is it a thoughtless lapse, or is there something more going on?" There is now more to the struggle than just Clark, as Swoopes' outburst lays forth. The new era heritage and the old guard are at odds with the prospects for women's. Once the dominant figure in basketball, Clark now observes from the sidelines as he enthralls an entire new fan generation.
It just keeps putting a light on the sport for everybody else to eat. And, sometimes, just as athletes, we are competitive by nature. And, we don't like We don't like when someone's getting something that we don't think they deserve.
The basketball community, which was once a ray of hope, is left in disbelief. Motivation for innumerable young athletes, such as a youthful Caitlin Clark today, seems resentful and disengaged, and her comments spark heated discussions on the internet. Here's the hilarious twist while Swoopes. Players and fans prefer to take sides. Clark's star power only makes her doubt her own merit. The difference between record-breaking accomplishments and a growing fan base is stark, with one athlete clutching two. While one is leading the way into the future of women's basketball, the other is looking to the past.
Well, it's been a crazy year. It's hard to think about. Like, I was basically just starting my senior year of college at this time last year. And then I graduated. I missed my college graduation, got drafted here in New York City, basically moved right to Indianapolis, and basically start like a whole new chapter of your life instantly, and you don't really have much time to adjust. But lucky enough, I had a really great support system and family around, and I'm from the Midwest, so didn't take me too long, but this past year has just been amazing.
How does Clark respond to this unexpected barrage of criticism? Does she snap, fueling the flames, or does she handle this disagreement with coolness under pressure? Won't only influence her legacy, it might also contribute to changing the whole picture of women's basketball players. Fasten your seatbelts because Clark is going to show you the full extent of her personality.
It's fun to reflect back and think about all the amazing things that I was able to accomplish and the people that I got to do it with. I think that's what's made it so special is I've had my family with me the whole time, my friends, amazing teammates, amazing coaches, and it wouldn't be possible without all of them. So just really fortunate.
Recall our statement that Clark was going to demonstrate her abilities to us. Not only is the reaction to the Time Awards scandal unexpected, but it's also revolutionary. She is changing the definition of leadership in women's basketball, whereas Swoopes eliminated Clark, keeps breaking records and capturing the hearts of people. How does she manage the? Does she respond to criticism? No, Clark chooses the high road, and that.
Everyone is talking about choice.
Number of Indiana Fever fans I saw in young girls and the way they were lighting up. I mean, you have represented something so special for the sport, but you've drawn eyes to a game that you've always grown up loving. What does that mean to you?
You know, it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around because I'm so focused and so competitive, and I love the game. I love playing. I love being in front of the fans. But over the course of probably the last two and a half years, it's all kind of changed where, you know, it's hard to get a ticket whether we're at home or whether we're on the road.
In her interview with Time, Clark doesn't just shrug off the controversy. Instead, she confronts it with a maturity that's attention-grabbing. Caitlin Clark's ascent to fame has been accompanied by a revitalizing awareness of oneself.
A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then you continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing.
However, Clark goes one step farther and makes it a point to acknowledge the legends who helped pave the way for her achievement, and you know who she credits? Sheryl Swoopes herself. Move that demonstrates that Clark is a class act off the court in addition to being an elite talent on it.
Also, Caitlin Clark saying she wants to use her platform to elevate black women in the WNBA. Have been instrumental, obviously, in building that league to what it is. Okay.
So what's the
Clark's response? It's a master tutorial in how to handle criticism with grace, going beyond just rising above the fray, transforming a potentially depressing situation into something positive. She isn't only advocating for her own goals, accomplishments, she's elevating the standard for the discussion of women's basketball.
I remember my first WNBA game, one of the best memories of my childhood, and I think very influential in wanting to be a professional basketball player, wanting to be a great person, having those people to look up to and want to be like one day. So I just try to embody that every single day, and I feel like I have good perspective on, like, basketball isn't my everything. Like, yeah, I love it, and I get to do it, and it's given me a lot of really great opportunities, but at the same time, you know, win or loss, I feel like I try to be the same person.
The difference between while Swoopes challenges and criticizes Clark's choice, Clark's attitude and Swoopes' statements are unquestionably stern. To rejoice and encourage, this tactic isn't only gaining her new admirers, don't be misled, she is effectively silencing her critics. Despite the fact that her words and deeds have genuine weight, Clark's generosity for those in need. She's demonstrating that you don't have to bring people down in order to improve yourself. In fact, by honoring her predecessors, Clark is cementing her own place in basketball history.
How you feel or how you respond to some of those criticisms when you have to deal with something that it's really not your problem. Like, I feel like it's them looking in a mirror a little bit, but it still comes down on your shoulders.
I feel like I always have had really good perspective on everything that's kind of happened in my life, whether that's been good, whether that's been bad. And then obviously coming to the WNBA, like I've said, I feel like I've earned every single thing that's happened to me over the course of my career.
As the one fact emerges from the controversy, Clark's handling of the matter has changed what might have been a contentious incident into a time for women's basketball to come together, proved that one can be a polite leader off the court and a tough competitor on it. But this is not the end of the story. Clark's calm answer has opened the door for a much more general discussion of how the basketball community as a whole will respond to this demonstration of class and sportsmanship. Pay attention because the responses are about to. They might just startle you when they roll in.
But also, I grew up a fan of this league from a very young age. Like, my favorite player was Maya Moore. Like, I know what this league was about. And like I said, like, it's only been around 25 plus years. So I know there's been so many amazing black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them, I think, is very important. And that's something I'm very aware of. And like I said, like, I try to just be real and authentic and, you know, share my truth. And I think that's very easy for me. Like, I'm very comfortable in my own skin. And that's kind of been how it is my entire life.
The triumph of Clark and Swoopes' criticism ignited a flurry of discussion throughout the basketball community, not just making headlines. Opinions on the scenery are circulating more quickly than one of Clark's spectacular three-pointers, and everyone wants to voice their opinions. Let's dissect the responses from the entire army on Clark's side. Number of supporters has increased, and admirers are saturating social media with posts for praising the budding star's poise under duress and pointing out Swoopes for what they perceive to be an angry response, as one fan tweeted Clark's. Her remark demonstrates that she is already a future legend who could pick up some tips on sportsmanship.
And you'll never be able to make everyone happy. And someone that knows that at the age of 22, like, let's go.
I mean, I think I have good perspective on that. And like I said in the article, which turned out amazing, I thought it was great. I said, I feel like one of my best skills is just blocking things out. Like, I don't really, the only opinions I really care about are the people that I love, my teammates, my coaches, the people inside of our locker room, the people that I see every single day, and I know have my best interests at heart too.
All of this turmoil will shape the heart as well. The big question is whether Clark will stay in the WNBA. Some think the incident could put a lot of pressure on her in the upcoming season, claim that it's just stoking her competitive spirit and might pave the way for a successful sophomore year and perhaps even an MVP run, but there's no denying Clark's impact. Unquestionably, WNBA ticket sales are skyrocketing, and women's basketball television ratings. College basketball has never been more popular, and even people who have never seen the women's game are paying attention. Don't be fooled by the numbers. Clark is more than just a player. She is a phenomenon who is changing the sports landscape.
I'm just scratching the surface of the things I want to accomplish, and you know, I'm 22. I'm still figuring out life. I'm still figuring out where everything's going to go, and you know, I love basketball, and basketball has brought me so many amazing things, and that will continue to be probably my first passion and everything that I enjoy. And hopefully once basketball ends, I can still find things that I'm really passionate about and can do. Hopefully be an owner of a sports team one day, or open a restaurant. I don't know. Something fun. A little less stressful maybe. Maybe a coffee shop or something. I don't know.
Clark's influence extends beyond concerning a single honor or dispute. It concerns the game's future. But some question the standards by which she was awarded Athlete of the Year. Clark's statement recognizing the legends who preceded her, and even Sheryl Swoopes, has demonstrated exceptional grace and leadership rather of retaliating. She's enhancing the discussion with her manner of. Young people are inspired by play that emphasizes long-range shooting and natural movements. Fans are watching like never before as athletes pick up a basketball and have faith in their own abilities. Prior to and ticket essay and TV ratings show her increasing impact on Clark's. Being genuine off the court by spending time with fans and recalling what it's like to be the child in the audience strikes a chord with. On a personal level, this is about the whole thing, not just Clark and Swoopes. Women's basketball is at a crossroads in its development, juggling. Reverence for its legends in the face of rising talents who are changing the definition of. Perhaps the Clark story is generating more discussion, more attention, and more enthusiasm for the WNBA. She's not just shattering records, but also changing attitudes and motivating a new generation and bringing women's basketball to the forefront like never before. Previously, it was evident that the game was changing as we watched Clark's journey unfold. Her ascent foreshadows a new era in which women's sports will command center stage, and players' dreams for the future are even more ambitious. The sport will never be the identical, and that's just the purpose.
Today, she has released, well, she's not released, it has been announced that her shoe is going to be dropped this week, and we can see what it looks like.
Fans are incensed over Nike's choice and are left wondering what the company's objectives are.
So, Paige Bueckers is arguably the best player in college basketball right now. She's had a really good start to the season, and again, she's a 23-year-old dominating against 18-year-olds. She should be.
As Paige Bueckers creates history, Caitlin Clark, the first collegiate athlete to wear Nike sneakers, is widely recognized as. In women's basketball, one of the most captivating athletes is still out of the spotlight.
So Nike's first Paige Bueckers shoe drops this week. So Caitlin Clark has not had a shoe. By the way, she's had nothing. She's had nothing except the Rookie of the Year top.
Was this a premeditated move by Nike to miss the mark with their biggest star? Method or a complete failure? This is the tale of how Nike's. The most recent action has sparked controversy and split fans in women's basketball by releasing a special sneaker for Paige Bueckers, while apparently, Nike's decision to bench Caitlin Clark has shocked the sports world. What ought to have been a watershed moment for women's basketball has swiftly devolved into a PR issue when both casual onlookers and fan experts cast doubt on the brands. Priorities. The dispute is not just about the sneaker, it's also about how Nike's choice is being perceived as a flagrant disregard for Caitlin Clark, a player who is regarded as the spokesperson for women's basketball.
Nike signed Bueckers in September 2023, where she frequently wore the GT Hustle 2 on court. She signed several NIL deals. So, Nike signed Caitlin Clark in 2022. Nada. Nike signed Paige Bueckers in 2023. Signature shoe straight away.
Fans are furious and are urging action on social media, including boycotts of. How do you overlook Caitlin Clark, the top player in women's basketball, when it comes to Nike products? One basketball fan insulted another by tweeting, "Nike just doesn't get it." These annoyances are reflected on fan communities, and I've stopped purchasing Caitlin Clark's goods. Although discussions are dominated by arguments about Nike's intentions, some supporters are even sharing videos showing themselves throwing away their Nike clothing, while others are promising to. Switching to rival brands like Adidas or Under Armour will undoubtedly cause resentment. And the clamor is just growing louder. This controversy's irony stems from, given Caitlin Clark's indisputable brilliance, she doesn't require brands' approval. At barely 22, Clark has gone beyond collegiate basketball to become a valuable asset to brands. A well-known figure in sports generally for her outstanding record-breaking accomplishments. Her leadership qualities and capacity to attract large audiences have solidified her reputation as a superstar whose playmaking abilities and jaw-dropping shots frequently go viral, enthralling basketball fans worldwide and demonstrating that her influence speaks. It's cool on its own.
It's cool. And look, I think it's simultaneously, it's okay to say it's really cool that Paige Bueckers is getting her shoe, but Nike fumbled Caitlin Clark so badly.
The dispute draws attention to a more significant problem with Nike's sports marketing strategy. While Bueckers is unquestionably gifted and worthy of praise, many believe that her performances have had an unprecedented cultural and athletic influence. often attract large crowds, and her clips go viral, enthralling basketball enthusiasts. For a company with as much global influence as Nike, excluding such a celebrity feels like a. Concerns have also been raised by Nike's conspicuous failure to introduce a Caitlin Clark signature sneaker. Regarding their capacity to engage their audience, admirers contend that Clark's charisma and authority make her the ideal person to spearhead a campaign that may go beyond sports and become a cultural phenomenon rather than Nike's action, has been largely perceived as tone-deaf, causing an increasing amount of resentment. Due to this error, rivals like Adidas and Under Armour have been able to enter the market and associate themselves with Caitlin Clark's iconic sneaker, whose marketability is rising, potentially increase sales and provide a strong statement about the importance of women's sports could lose one of the biggest stars if Nike doesn't take immediate action. Caitlin Clark's star power is currently evident in basketball to a competitor brand. Brighter than ever, her ability and impact speak for themselves. She doesn't need a signature shoe to demonstrate her magnificence themselves, yet this circumstance acts as a wake-up call for Nike. Fans are paying attention, demanding better representation, and are prepared to holding brands responsible if Nike doesn't see Clark's worth. It could lag behind in. Did you hear the most recent commotion about the quickly changing environment of women's sports marketing? One of the all-time greats of the WNBA, Diana Taurasi, is publicly incensed about. Taurasi feels that after being likened to rookie star Caitlin Clark as a seasoned warrior who defies assertions that Clark is unworthy of greater respect and acknowledgement, surpassing her Taurasi, who has continuously served as a pillar of the Phoenix Mercury, believes that her legacy is being undermined by the similarities. "I have devoted my life to this." In a recent interview, Game Taurasi said that he was being likened to a rookie who's just. "It's unfair for her to begin her journey. I should be given more credit for my years of diligence and accomplishments." But let's speak about Caitlin Clark's figures. Been really outstanding this past season, averaging 22 points each game. Boasts a 3-point shooting ability and leads the league in assists with 9.5 per game. 40% shooting percentage compared to Taurasi's average of 18. With 5 assists, 3 points, and a 35% shooting percentage, beyond the arc, Clark also holds the record for the most assists in a season, demonstrating her ability to create plays that has made the Indiana Fever one of the league's best clubs. Clark's influence extends beyond the numbers. She has reignited the craze. Use her spectacular play and leadership to transform a failing club into a playoff contender, while Taurasi has been a. Clark is a reliable performer whose spectacular shows have drawn attention. Taz's annoyance is understandable, given many argue that she is this season's more valuable player. She has 5 WNBA titles after more than 20 years in the league. Despite receiving 2 MVP awards and numerous other honors, some fans and the fact that a rookie is already outperforming her has generated a contentious discussion among observers. Regarding the standards used to evaluate seasoned players in comparison to rising stars, detractors of. According to the similarities, Clark is a strong MVP because to her all-around game and statistical supremacy. Contender, but Taurasi's backers contend that leadership experience and clutch plays are equally, if not more, crucial in high-stakes games. Compared to raw data, the dispute peaked when Taurasi faced the. She said it's like comparing apples and oranges when narrative Heaton compares me to Caitlin. Experience and reliability are important. Although Caitlin is amazing, she's still discovering. I've been here creating this league, and I anticipate being handled with the deference that accompanies that, while Caitlin Clark keeps thrive, demonstrating that her debut season will go down in history because of her capacity to. She has a devoted following thanks to her ability to score, distribute, and make game-winning plays. And a key place in MVP debates as the season goes on, the rivalry between Taurasi and Clark demonstrates how the WNBA's dynamics are changing, where both newcomers and veterans are intensifying the argument with one another. Isn't just about who has superior numbers, it's also about if a player's capacity for dominance is what really makes them desirable. The knack for improving teammates or the experience of leading a team through difficult times is the scoreboard. And Clark stand for various aspects of excellence, and their contrast elevates significant issues regarding how the league honors and recognizes skill. As the WNBA season intensifies, everyone's attention is focused on Diana Taurasi and Caitlin Clark-Tazas. Clark's unquestionable rise and calls for improved treatment of veterans are influencing the debate over legacy and player worth, whether you support Tazas. Regardless of expertise or Clark's remarkable numbers, one thing is certain: the future of the WNBA is thriving, with both rising stars and legends propelling the sport. What factors do you believe should be given more weight to veteran experience when choosing MVP? Factors, or should Caitlin Clark's and other exceptional rookie performances take center stage? It's possible that such a Sabally will join Caitlin Clark on the Indiana Fever, the WNBA's greatest offseason story, and the digital clues that Sabally has been leaving imply that there's more to it than rumors that the Indiana Fever just bid farewell to Tammy Fogg-Bentley, one of its main players early in the season. Although this could appear to be a standard summer strategy, it could be establishing the setting for something enormous that Dallas Wings all-star forward Sato Sabally has stated that she is a free agent and has been implying that she would like to join the team. From purposefully like messages on social media to actively participating in content about collaborating with Caitlin Clark-Sabal's actions speak louder than words.
So she's come out and said she's a free agent, and then Overtime said Satu teaming up with Caitlin kinda here for that narrative.
Since declaring her free agency, Sabally has been very active on Instagram. She started to like posts about the Fever and Caitlin Clark's possible super team. Her total lack of interaction with posts from Chicago Sky vocalists and other team fans is noteworthy. Supporters. This is calculated. Sabally has even expressed interest in fan-made graphics. In a league where players often refrain from influencing rumors, seeing her wearing a Fever jersey is unusual. This isn't merely random behavior. Her activities, timing, and pattern point to her intention following when the college season began, Caitlin Clark began to dominate Sabal's headlines. Interaction with Indiana-related content increased, demonstrating her obvious interest in what is causing the Fever to worsen, and why is this important? At this point, Aaliyah Boston had a phenomenal season, and naturally, we all. Even though they are aware of Caitlin Clark's activities, they still require a seasoned superstar. With guard-like abilities, Sabally, who is 6 feet 4 inches in, might be Sabally, the missing element, averaged almost 19 points and 8.5 last season. She is a dynamic forward who can stretch the floor and defend, grabbing rebounds per game. She can play a variety of positions and dominate the paint when paired with Boston and Clark. Would produce a squad with Kelsey that is not only competitive, but could be dominating for years. Defenses would struggle to concentrate on Mitchell, a proven scorer, but how could the Fever? In order to keep Sabally, the Wings might utilize the core designation. Rights comparable to those of the franchise tag in other sports, but history demonstrates that. Elena Dion and Diana Taurasi both advocate that making players stay frequently backfires. Despite being a sign and trade agreement, they made their way to their preferred destinations. Maybe the best course of action for everyone involved. Nalissa Smith, the 9th pick in the expected trade package. Smith is a bright young player in the upcoming draft and a potential first-round selection. The draft pick and a forward with a lot of potential would enable Dallas to acquire more young talent for the next giving. Acquiring these assets is worthwhile in order to land a successful superstar like Sabally. The league with established powerhouse clubs is more important than the Fever when considering a possible move. The WNBA needs a second franchise to balance the competitive landscape between New York and Las Vegas. Adding Sabally to a youthful core under Boston and Clark's leadership might make. Additionally, it would change the narrative to focus on Indiana as a free, transforming them into one of the most thrilling franchises in the agent destination. At the age of 25, the time is ideal for both Sabally and the Fever. The Fever has cap space to give a max deal when Sabally enters her prime. Since their young core is still on rookie contracts, adding Sabally would not jeopardize their roster. reinforced their transition from a rebuilding squad to a respectable. This move, contender, might also have repercussions outside of basketball. The Fever would immediately become one of the league's most marketable clubs, are highlighting a smaller market and boosting the WNBA's growth. Sabali collaborating with Boston and Clark would not merely form a team. It would establish a dynasty that may rule the league for many years to come. Some might argue that the WNBA is racist. However, let's examine some facts and statistics first. This was by far the WNBA's greatest season ever. They set 54 million people watched television, setting a new record for the number of viewers. Additionally, established a record for the quantity of broadcasts that reached at least one. With a staggering 50% increase, the league's total attendance reached its greatest level in almost 20 years. In contrast to the previous year, the All-Star Game set a record with an incredible 10 million fan votes, which is more than 500% more than the year before. Caitlin Clark plays for the Indiana Fever, who set an all-time attendance record for a WNBA team in a single season. After that, the league witnessed a 350% increase in paid streaming subscriptions year over year. Service in addition to increased publicity, sellout crowds, and social media interaction, coverage, and record-breaking sales of products. This is the kind of season that, considering everything, WNBA executives probably never thought was feasible. Given these outstanding accomplishments, how much money do you believe the WNBA made? What type of money could such a historic season generate? Do you believe they were successful in making a profit earlier in the year? Rumors that the NBA's financial situation wasn't good, and now that the final figures are in that. The New York Post claims that estimations have turned out to be rather accurate. Even though it was the WNBA's best season ever, the league lost $40 million this year. Despite operating at a $40 million loss, they surpassed almost every metric for engagement and growth, but failed to generate a profit. This isn't simply a poor fiscal year. This is a trend that the WNBA has never experienced its whole history, and at this point, it's hard to imagine how that might ever significantly alter its idea. Contradicted by the fact that most Americans aren't interested in viewing girls' basketball. Even in a year where records are being broken, the data indicates that. Given that interest is still insufficient to keep the league financially afloat, Caitlin Clark's latest interview. Time magazine is a particularly fascinating period of time that is still in existence. Clark was recently featured on the cover and selected their Athlete of the Year. Clark said something in the piece that is both illuminating and contentious. This is the section that jumps out straight out of Time magazine. I want to claim that I've earned everything, yet being white comes with. According to Privilege, Clark, many of the league's really talented players have been black. The more we can value, emphasize, and discuss them, the more the league has been built on them. Keep businesses and brands investing in the players who have contributed to this league's amazingness. I believe it's vital. The more we can elevate, the more I must keep trying to change it. There are two aspects about black women that will make them gorgeous. Taking place here first, Clark attributes the construction of the. She contends that the WNBA wouldn't exist without them, however this could be. Originally meant as a compliment, it's similar to complimenting someone for starting a company that continuously loses millions of revenues. However, even this assertion isn't totally true because the WNBA was established and is still financially supported by the NBA. Without its money and assistance, the WNBA wouldn't even exist. She goes on to state that black women should be honored and recognized, which makes her point quite evident. By doing this, she is safeguarding her WNBA status and endorsements. What's intriguing about this story is that it conforms to contemporary progressive ideas. Following a season in which she endured unrelenting criticism on the court, whether it was being pushed over and repeatedly jabbed in the shoulder or eye, Clark was targeted and, in certain situations, even made fun of later on. Yet in spite of this therapy, she is publicly asserting that, as a white woman in the WNBA, she has privilege. Her background indicates that she is not privileged, yet what she does have is. As a rookie, unquestionable talent, Clark set records, including the most points, the most assists, and surpassing all previous players in terms of speed to earn 300 points. She stands out for her talent, not her race, but rather her readiness to accept the narrative of privilege, despite the fact that her treatment in court raises concerns regarding whether she's acting because she believes in it or because she has to. The WNBA for everyone. Its expansion and involvement continue to be accompanied with basic problems, even despite its greatest year, it was unable to match profitability, according to Clark's analysis. Draws attention to the league's reliance on all players, but it ignores the fundamental issue the WNBA is requesting. The record-breaking engagement numbers demonstrate improvement for an audience that is essentially non-existent, but they also restrictions. Most Americans continue to not pay attention, even when the league. Yet, the WNBA's problems extend well beyond racial dynamics or privilege. The league's financial difficulties indicate a more serious problem: its incapacity to turn interest into long-term income. Caitlin Clark's comments might provoke discussion, but they don't alter the fact that the WNBA is really a company that struggles to defend its presence in the sports industry.
I'm really excited for this new beginning and to build something from the ground up here with the Valkyries.
As the WNBA expands for the first time in, the Golden State Valkyries arrive on the scene over 20 years later, ready to create a big impression. Kate Martin's eagerly awaited return to the court, now proudly donning the jersey of the new franchise and bearing a heavy expectations, but regrettably, AIA Wilson is unhappy with this outcome and seems to have anger toward Kate, believing that she betrayed him.
Yeah, honestly, my focus has just been getting better. I mean, all around. I had a decent rookie season, but I just know something that's really cool about me is that my ceiling is very high. So
Meanwhile, AIA Wilson, the current MVP, is under more and more pressure as she observes competitors and new players aggressively improving their game with Caitlin Clark already establishing herself as the next big star. Be ready for a season that PR guarantees will be a real change on the court. Imagine what it would be like after years without a important change. The WNBA is at last seeing a big expansion. The last time something like happened was about 20 years ago, and with all the fanfare and excitement, the Golden State Valkyries are officially entering the league.
A lot of room to grow. Always working on my shot, always working on being quicker, but
behind the scenes, commentators, players, and fans were anxiously guessing about the WNBA names that were chosen. Expansion draft in the midst of corridor whispers, audacious assumptions, and information leaks. The Golden State Valkyries have selected Kate Martin, whose acquisition is set to change the balance of power in the league, which will have an immediate effect on well-known players like current MVP AIA Wilson. Kate Martin becomes a star when the Valkyries join the league during the first significant expansion in almost 20 years. Key player for the ambitious new franchise, and her presence not only energizes the fan base, which is already enormous, but also shows that the Valkyrie wants to leave a lasting impression with her move. Increases the level of competition for AIA Wilson, who is already under increased pressure from new clubs, up-and-coming players, including Caitlin Clark, who is rapidly rising to prominence as a contender for the MVP award in the forthcoming season. Revolutionary, with the WNBA going through a real revolution on the courts, the Kate Martin-supported Golden State Valkyries are prepared to contest the current situation as the Indiana Fever painstakingly rebuilt in an effort to regain. Wilson and Las Vegas face a complex threat landscape as a result of their fame. Vegas aces as they handle both new talent and more established rivals. The rise of Caitlin Clark, who is keen to advance, heightens the tension and excitement of her offensive. Her magnetic personality and court vision make her an intimidating Wilson's rival might result in a heated MVP showdown, while the Indiana Fever, despite losing a few players in the expansion draft, they are putting together a team that is determined to win, guaranteeing that as the WNBA expands with new players, the competition stays fierce and unexpected. The stage is set for a season full of competitive games between teams and rising stars. Disputes, calculated transactions, and fierce behind-the-scenes maneuvers. The conflict between the Indiana Fever, Las Vegas Aces, Golden State Valkyries, and prominent athletes like Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson will define the leagues. As the WNBA develops further, fans can anticipate exciting games and the emergence of new legends. Who will win as the league goes through is still the major question. These significant changes will enable Kate Martin to guide the Valkyries to victory and turn into. With their recognizable visage, the Indiana Fever may reimagine themselves and take on the reputable powerhouses. And will A'ja Wilson continue to be named MVP versus Caitlin Clark's growing threat? These responses will be shown in court. One of the most thrilling and significant seasons in WNBA history is coming up.